So this recording is going to be a conceptual look into the diamond problem in inheritance, as well as a quick coding demo, demonstrating the diamond problem, as well as how to address it. Before I start coding, I do want to quickly recap conceptually what the diamond problem is. Now, I'm not going to teach it from scratch. I'm going to assume you've at least heard of the term and remember it a little bit from class because I don't want to teach it completely. But essentially, the diamond problem comes from when we have a class, a base class, as well as two separate derived classes that inherit from this base class. And the diamond problem shows up when we try to create another class that inherits from this left and right parent class. And the issue is that when we inherit this way, we're inheriting two copies of all the members inside this base class. So I'm going to redraw this a little bit in a way that I believe is easier to understand what the diamond problem actually is. And you can think of it as these blue ones are the same interface, the same class. I'm just drawing them separate so you can, so you can see what I mean when I say that it is inheriting two instances of this class. So this child class, I'll call this one child C. This red one, A. This purple one, B. And then this blue one, I'll call Z, just to make it very different, right? If you were to, I guess, follow this path of inheritance up on the left side here, up through A, you'll see that it's inheriting all the methods and all the functions from Z from A. On the other hand, if you were to follow it up on the right, you'll see that it's also inheriting all the methods and functions that B inherits from the parent class. So what this is going to look like is this is really going to have almost two versions of everything that B has. It'll have like the stuff coming from A and then the stuff coming from B. And this is just duplicate information that we don't want. And this could cause our code to throw an error if we were to try to call a class that is inherited from A. So really quick, I want to demonstrate that. So I also wanted to write the code from scratch. So hopefully as you're watching, you can feel more comfortable writing this from scratch. So the first thing that I always like to do is create our main. And then I'll be using print statements. So I'm just going to include IOStream right off the bat, but that's not really relevant. And then using namespace standard. And feel free to watch this at 2x speed if I'm talking too slow. But in any case, in this example, we're going to use the same naming terminology that we use here. So our base class is going to be Z, our child classes will be A and B, and then our child class will be C. Just so so you can refer to this diagram at any point. So our base class, right? We're going to do class C, and then it'll have just one public method called print, right? It'll be a very simple print function where we are printing to the console. So printing to console. And I encourage you to follow along to get comfortable with the keystrokes and just build your muscle memory for coding. Anyways, now we're going to create our two classes. I'll use a separate color. I'm going to do A and B. And this is just kind of boilerplate code, so feel free to skip this, but class A will inherit when we're inheriting from when we want to do public inheritance, we're just going to use the public keyword, public Z. And note that I'm not implementing anything. This is just because I want to keep it very simple, but this is technically legal. I'm only keeping this actual class implementation empty for the sake of simplicity. Okay, so that's class A. Then we're doing class B will also publicly inherit all the members from Z. and also be an empty definition for the sake of simplicity, right? So we've set up our child classes, but now I'm going to demonstrate the diamond problem in code. I'm going to intentionally throw an error to show you what happens if you don't fix the diamond problem. So we're going to create class C, going back to our diagram. That's this class down here that inherits two copies of all the stuff from our Z, our base class. So this is going to be class C, inherits public A and public B. And this also has no implementation because that doesn't matter for this demo, right? So this will throw an error, and I'll demonstrate that and explain the error exactly. So if we were to create or instantiate this class, Z type Z, and then call Z.print, excuse me, sorry, C. If we wanted to create C, right, our child class, we call C.print, you can see already that cline is telling me that there's likely going to be an error, a non-static member print found in multiple base class objects of type C. So it found two of these, right? And then if I were to try to run this code, I just press play, it will throw an error in the terminal saying that the request for member print is ambiguous. It's ambiguous because there's two options and we need to specify, we need to either address the diamond problem with virtual inheritance, which I'll explain, or specify which route we want to take. And then these are the candidates. There's two candidates because we're inheriting twice. If I were to do public F, that also does the same thing. It's switch up 3 times. Anyways, the way to fix the diamond problem, the way to address the diamond problem is through virtual inheritance via the virtual keyword. So what virtual inheritance does is it changes this, I guess, setup where it inherits twice to something that looks more like you didn't lose sound. I'm just being quiet. I'm sorry. I'm just redrawing this. Um, right. So we're kind of changing the structure or the flow of our inheritance to look more like this, where no matter which way you follow, I guess, this path, you're really only inheriting one instance of all these methods. So it's no longer ambiguous because there's only one source that we could get all these methods from, right? Uh, and to do this, we use the virtual keyword before both of our, I'll call them our intermediate classes, right? And you can see already the error is disappearing. And now if I were to run this, we successfully are able to print the console. So that's the diamond problem. If you have any questions, I definitely encourage you to read Stack Overflow, review your notes. I'm not sure if the Codio materials, you should check there. I don't know for sure if there's specifically a module on the diamond problem. Or you can feel free to DM me with any of your questions. If you're wondering what this error is, this is just that we can make this static. Don't worry about that. Our code is totally fine, perfectly valid like this. In the context of the lab, I believe you are going to have to do something similar where I don't remember the naming of the accounts, but you'll have your base account class, then two different account classes that derive from that, and then a final account class that derives from those intermediate or those already derived classes. Feel free to DM me on Discord if you have any questions.